welcome to Planet Outlook. This is a special episode in association with the National Mission for Clean Ganga. The cultural and ecological significance of River Ganga is immeasurable in our lives for millions of people, but the river is choking with pollution for decades and efforts on cleaning up hasn't showed the desired results. In 1986, the Government of India started the cleaning of Ganga with the Ganga Action Plan, which has now got a makeover as the National Mission for Clean Ganga in 2014. It's also known as Namami Gange. To talk about the current scenario, my guest today is the Director General of this very challenging project, Shri Rajiv Ranjan Mishra. Thank you, Mr. Mishra, for joining us. And to begin with, I would like to ask you first that when can we see a clean Ganga?
Thank you. I will like to start by revisiting the question which you have asked me, that when can we see a clean Ganga? I think we have to understand what do we mean by a clean river, clean Ganga or any clean river. And we have to understand that river has no problem. I mean, rivers are clean. What is not clean is the habitations along the river, the cities, the villages, the people who are there. So actually, it's the problem of waste disposal and how they manage waste, which actually makes the river also not so clean. So I think that we have to keep in mind. And then again, if we ask when our house will be clean, we have to keep on cleaning it again and again. It's not that once we clean our house and leave it and then for a month we don't do anything, it will remain clean. So primarily we have to understand that cleaning of the river is a continuous process. I don't mean that we don't have a big challenge. We have a challenge. Now we have neglected the river, its health for a very long time. So we will have to do something very strongly, which we are doing under Namami Gange, to create the infrastructure to keep these cities and villages on the bank of the river clean, develop infrastructure, sewage infrastructure, have good solid waste management and all that. And that's how so many projects are taken up. But ultimately, two things are important: complete these infrastructures, these projects and interventions as quickly as possible, keeping in mind the future need also, so that whatever you do not become useless very soon. And second most important thing is, the best way to clean a river is stop making it dirty. So I think these two things, and then perhaps we'll elaborate how exactly we are going. The date of when the river will be clean is not the right question. When we can complete the projects which I explained, there could be a date for that. But the river, people who have cleaned their rivers in Europe, if you go and ask them, they say still so much of work is there and we have to maintain it clean. So I think if you look at a kind of deadline or a timeline on the main stem of Ganga, the various projects are at a very advanced stage. I will tell you subsequently, but next 2 to 3 years, most of these projects on Ganga will get complete. But does not mean that by just completing this thing, our job is over. We have to keep them operating, we have to keep them running, and we have to stop polluting it. Because if you keep on polluting it, no matter how much cleaning you do, it will still remain unclean. So I think this aspect of continuity, of long-term intervention has to be understood to really do a meaningful job.
How much of your strategy has changed from the Ganga Action Plan, which we used to know, where lots of money has been spent, but we haven't seen the results? And now that you have taken over the project for the last few years, and many environmentalists have told me that you have done a lot of out-of-box kind of thinking on the project and have initiated a lot of things. Almost 35% of the project is complete. So if you just briefly tell us that, how are you tackling the present kind of crisis?
A really good, thoughtful question, because you have very rightly said we have started doing various things differently. If we would have the other day, Honorable Prime Minister, while inaugurating Uttarakhand projects, he very nicely summarized it, that if we would have continued to do the same thing as was being done in the past, perhaps the result also would have remained same. So what we did, we actually tried to make it a very comprehensive program. First difference was, it's not a cleaning program, it's a rejuvenation program. So cleaning is an important part, no doubt, but actually we are going beyond cleaning. So that was one. Second change which happened, we tried to do it in a more scientific way, like we tried to do a kind of profiling of the entire river and all the cities, towns and villages along the river and what exactly is needed. Another thing which we saw that the problem of previous program was perhaps like you mentioned about lot of money has been spent and all that, but if you look at from 1986 to 2014, the amount spent was around 4,000 crore. I don't say 4,000 crore is a small amount, it's a big amount, but if you divide on an annual basis, roughly 130, 150 crore per year is being spent. Do we think that kind of intervention is going to arrest the kind of pollution which is happening in such a mighty river? It's not. So when we looked at that, we got a very good thing in this program, that we got a very comprehensive budget and a kind of mandate that you can plan. If you have a budget of something like 2,000, 1,500 crore to 2,500 crore kind of range per year, then perhaps you can really make some difference, like planning for right from beginning to end of the river and then start doing it. Normally, the main problem has been that whatever you construct, one thing is we construct at a much slower pace than the population increase. So actually, whatever you construct, the gap will keep on widening. Here we are trying to look at 15-year requirement and construct in a very aggressive way, so that the gap will start narrowing down, which is happening now. Another problem, another change which happened, a major change which happened in the cleaning part, was looking at 15-year maintenance, operation and maintenance of whatever we are constructing, because most of the assets created earlier, we did a kind of scientific survey, we found more than 50% were defunct. So I think we cannot keep on repeating the same failure, and then so we are putting 15-year thing, and then we also tried to bring in public-private partnership, brought hybrid annuity mode where we only pay 40% during construction and 60% annuity is paid. So a major change is we are now paying for performance, because his own money is just, if he does not perform, he does not meet the standard, his own money will get lost. So I think several of these things happened for cleaning. Very quickly, I will also tell you several other aspects came into Namami Gange, which are different from the earlier days. What I told you, a kind of Nirmal Ganga, all these things. Of course, there are many components of industry and several other things. But broadly speaking, then there's a whole lot of things about Aviral Ganga, which we call Aviral Ganga, looking at flow, looking at improving ecology, biodiversity, forest around that. So I think there is a whole lot of interventions. For the first time, it happened here. Then the third part, which I will tell you, is a kind of connecting people with the river, Jan Ganga. I mean, really bringing lots of stakeholders all around into this. And then the fourth component, you can say, improving our knowledge. So we have started with the IIT consortium report, the basin management plan, environmental flow assessment. So lots of new knowledge, lots of new things have happened. So putting all these four factors together, it becomes Namami Gange, and that's where you will see one component complements another component. Completion of project, I will just like to correct it. Some of the projects are long term. Forestry cannot be 2-3 year projects, a 10-year project. But looking at sewerage projects, we have got 113 projects on the Ganga. Almost 50% of them we have completed in last 4-5 years. And now the pace is much higher. So I think very soon we will be completing, because initial 2-3 years looks into the DPR preparation, tendering and all those things. We have come out of those phase. So that's why you can see Uttarakhand, more or less, we have completed all our sewerage projects, and which were all inaugurated. UP also more than 50% projects are over. So I think things have really picked up, and I see no reason why the momentum will slow down. It will further keep on increasing, and we would be able to. And we are also seeing a lot of visible results.
You talked about a lot of these partnerships in this here. So what about the center-state partnerships? How good? Obviously, all states, there will be some states who are more proactive, there will be some states who are not so proactive. So if you can tell us about how this has developed with the relationship between center and state to clean up the river Ganga, because states play a very important role here also. You talked about, because I am asking you because you mentioned about public-private partnerships and so on and so forth.
You are absolutely right, because a mission of this size and this kind of diversity of interventions need lot of partnership. And let me tell you, the relationship with a state has to be very, very collaborative, because most of the projects which we sanction, execution is done by them. Though we have our own supervision and guidance and technical support, but actually they are active support is very much necessary to achieve results. So another thing I will tell you, Ganga is perhaps the greatest unifier. So this is a cause where you get support. I mean, no one will come theoretically saying that this should not be done or this is not an important task. So I think it unifies, and by and large, we are getting support. But to get this kind of support, you also have to create some institutional mechanism, which again is a very, very important component of Namami Gange. In 2016, a kind of order was given making NMCG as an authority under EP Act. And if you, I mean, I will maybe in other parts I will cover, but here what is relevant is it actually creates a kind of institutional mechanism right from the topmost level. We call National Ganga Committee chaired by Honorable Prime Minister. Then we have got one empowered task force chaired by our minister for coordination among other ministries and also a state government. A state level, then NMCG of course there, and then a state level chief secretary chairs a meeting. And then for the first time in this program, we have created District Ganga Committee. Because right from National Ganga Committee, there is a link to the District Ganga Committee chaired by the District Magistrate, and DFO is part, and all other departments are there, and district level experts, NGOs are also part of that. So I think this mechanism actually is bringing a lot more coordination. And one thing which we have done is about financing states, because this is a program which is 100% now funded by Government of India. So we are ensuring we have created a very innovative mechanism of monitoring our money. So it does not get into the state exchange. It gets into a kind of dedicated body like NMCG at the State Mission for Clean Ganga. So money goes there. And we have a system of mother and child account. So we are able to monitor actually how the money is getting spent and where it is lying for a longer time and all that. So there is a much better institutional mechanism which is improving our coordination and work at the field level with the state government in this program.
But if I am correct, I think there are 11 states involved in this, spreading across the Ganga Basin.
Yes, the basin is large, as you rightly say, 11 states are there. What we talk about main stem states, that 5 states, Uttarakhand, UP, Bihar, Jharkhand and Bengal. But this is also a mission which is also handling other tributaries. So we also have projects in Haryana, we also have projects in Delhi for Yamuna primarily, and also Himachal Pradesh. So these 3 states are also there. Other than that, we have got Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan, part of them, not the entire state in this basin. But our projects, I mean the direct funding of projects are mostly in these 5 states, Ganga states, plus 3 states on Yamuna. Delhi, Haryana and Himachal. Other states are more like a technical cooperation, and now some projects are likely to be sanctioned in those states.
Overall, you are happy with the contribution of the 11 states, or would you like to single 1 or 2 states for quite outstanding kind of contribution?
See, we are happy with all states, let me tell you, but we also put a target that the smaller, the origin state is Uttarakhand. So we actually focused quite a lot, and Uttarakhand state also was very proactive. And you can see the result, we have completed projects in Uttarakhand. So that is one state which has taken lead certainly. Uttar Pradesh also has given a lot of importance, and we have several major iconic projects getting complete in Uttar Pradesh. Bihar, what has happened, Bihar is working very well, but initially Bihar did not have much assets created under the previous programs. So we are almost trying to create all infrastructure under this program, and from 65 MLD to 630 MLD capacity in Bihar is being created. It's a kind of real urban renewal mission in case of Ganga towns in Bihar. So I think all states are participating well, and Uttarakhand, Jharkhand, we have very small area under Ganga, and that's also almost nearing completion. So by and large, I will say that states are very enthusiastic about this program. Of course, certain problems will happen, project-specific problems also happen. It's not a simple mission you recognize, so we have to constantly keep on interacting and changing those issues. In continuing with this 11 states program, I would also like to share with you some of the things which we actually started on the main stem of Ganga. They actually are leading us to develop the whole program as a kind of model program for river rejuvenation. As we discussed and we started that the focus has been on the cleaning part. But the river rejuvenation, as I explained, is a much more holistic thing. And in this program, we got a chance to really create lots of new interventions. And it's a in real sense, multidisciplinary approach and also involving multi-stakeholders. So as I told you, some of the new things which is actually becoming a kind of framework for river rejuvenation in the country included sustainability of investment in sewerage sector through hybrid annuity mode. We also tried to consolidate in one particular city with one city, one operator, improving the governance so that there is a city-wide accountability and transparency. Some of these things are now being picked up. I'm very happy to tell you, yesterday we had review of all the 30 estates, polluted river estates in the whole country. There is a central monitoring committee which we support. And Telangana government actually yesterday said that now they have taken our documents and all that, and now they have gone for hybrid annuity mode in Hyderabad. Almost more than 1,000 crore worth projects they have tendered out on this particular mode for the pollution of Musi River, because that's again a highly polluted and highly challenging thing. Niti Aayog has also recommended that some of these approaches should be taken up by the other urban development agency in other states. So I think that's one area where it's expanding as a kind of model program. Similarly for industry, industrial policy again a very important area. So we started there like a grossly polluting industry inventory was created. Then we are involving third party IITs, NITs to do annual inspection of industry to break a kind of local support may not be so neutral. So we have tried to do that. Now we are trying to do it for Yamuna. I mean, already it has started on Yamuna and Hindan area after we got good compliance there. So apart from that, if you look at e-flow is another area where we have actually laid down a kind of new determination. Maybe we'll talk in detail later about that.
To that e-flow part, sir, I would come to that e-flow part because you've been known to bring policy level interventions in the ecological flow notification in 2018, if I'm not wrong, yes, which is a very key aspect for rejuvenating rivers, because that's the crux of the flow of the river is very important. And but how do you ensure an e-flow when so many dams are obstructing the natural course of the river? We have planned many more dams in Uttarakhand and here. So how will you manage the e-flow? And then the number, whatever number that the government has set, many of the experts, I believe, are not happy with that e-flow figures.
Very, very important question. And as you say, when we look at river has to have something which has flow. So our notification of e-flow in 2018 is a kind of path-breaking initiative. There may be an issue that perhaps it is too less. At the same time, there are also several people who say that even this cannot be followed, and then they are also trying to fight in the court of law that perhaps we have put too much of flow requirement. But anyway, things are more or less settled down. What we say is it's a minimum flow for the longitudinal connectivity, and you are right, any kind of a structural intervention will obstruct this flow. So if you look at this notification, idea is that any power plant or any other barrage is there, they have to release in different season a particular quantity of water, so that a minimum flow is maintained. More or less the hydropower projects in Uttarakhand, except one or two exceptions, everyone else has been releasing it. They have started following. In fact, we had given them 3 years time to implement it, but we got the whole thing inspected through CWC, and we realized that almost all of them have were able to release this much of water. So actually we reduced it to 2 years, and then now most of them are following except one case. Let's not discuss that case because that's in the Uttarakhand High Court. So if you look at the notification, it's not only the release of flow and then the obstruction of these barrages. First of all, not many hydropower projects, new projects are coming up in Uttarakhand. There is some sort of policy that whatever is constructed, it's okay. Plus some of them are at a very advanced stage. Apart from them, other projects are, as you are aware, have been stalled, and then new projects are also not likely to take place. So that is one decision government has taken. Second thing is also that the irrigation. The problem is primarily with over extraction of water in irrigation sector. That's the real problem, because the moment Ganga comes to Bhimgoda Barrage in Haridwar, and then we through very well developed Ganga canal system, which was developed long time back, centuries back, a lot of water goes off. So in our e-flow notification, if you see, we have also tried to highlight that demand side management is very important. Only by release of this much of water, you cannot maintain good flow in the river. However, this notification is very important, ideally because first time government has recognized the right of river over its own water. I mean, mind it, it's very important. Today it may be 20% or 30%, but once the right is recognized and once we move like this, it's only minimum flow. In fact, if you see the last 2 seasons, more water has been released than what is mandated on the minimum flow. It's a happy thing. But if you simply start with a very high flow, people will not accept it because farming is also very important and then our food security is involved. They have been using a particular quantity of water for more than 150 years. So I think it has to be slow process of convincing them, improving water use efficiency in the agriculture and bringing back even 5% water we save in agriculture. That will increase environmental flow much larger. So I think that is something which is important. We are moving on that. Apart from that, for improving flow, what we are also trying to do, the wetland along the river, the floodplain is very important. So we have enumerated the wetlands in the floodplain, especially in UP. 226 floodplains on both sides of the river within 10 kilometers of the river. We are now taking up a special program for rejuvenation of these wetlands. Because see, that will, when the rain comes, that will bring back a lot more. I mean, what is the typical surface connectivity or lateral connectivity will improve in the wetlands in the floodplain. So that's again something which is very at a kind of policy level. First time wetlands are being increased to the basin level conservation. Otherwise, normally 1 or 2 talao, they only be talk about the local catchment. We don't talk about the kind of basin level figure. Lot of forestry is happening. Again, that's something. We created a very good scientific DPR for forestry with FRI. Now Ministry of Environment and Forest is having similar approaches. It is being extended for 13 more rivers in the country. So I think this created a kind of model for catchment area treatment, forestry. They will all be improving the flow.
Here I want to ask, since you mentioned wetlands and floodplain, what about, sir, the river regulation zones which were kind of gathering dust, which were supposed to be implemented in the lines of the coastal regulatory zone? And a lot of the environmentalists and river activists keep raising this issue that we only see the river as a channel of water. We don't give importance to the floodplain management. There is rampant encroachment. You know the problems. Since you mentioned wetland and floodplain, so I just wanted to come back to this issue of the river regulation zones.
It's very important area because often people do not understand the importance of the floodplain. But they are very important for, I mean, we talked about e-flow and then the longitudinal flow and all that. Floodplains are very important to bring water back in the river from two kind of connectivity. One thing is the lateral, like the wetlands and the floodplain. And then also vertical connectivity, because it also improves the groundwater, and if floodplains are healthy, the groundwater recharge will be better, and then the river during lean season will get water. So, and you are very right that the river regulation zone has been under discussion for a long time. What happened when this National Mission for Clean Ganga got shifted into Jal Shakti Ministry, earlier water resources, and when this authority order came, I mean, if you look at, that's a very good order trying to lay down the foundation and the principles of river rejuvenation. So I think one of the principles very clearly is there: the floodplain should be protected, and it should be a kind of regulated construction zone. So in some way, in case of Ganga, and when I say Ganga, it's not only Ganga river per se, but the entire basin, because our authority order or Namami Gange is applicable for Ganga, Yamuna, Gomati, all the rivers in this basin. So almost 50% of the size of the basin of the India's population, this river regulation zone in some way or the other, some of the essential things have been brought into force by this authority order. We have started demarcation of floodplain all along the main stem of Ganga. Committees are there. Uttarakhand, more or less, that floodplain identification has happened. UP also, up to now, we have done a work. And what we have done, we are also using technology. We are doing LIDAR mapping of the entire Ganga, 10 kilometers both sides, very high resolution mapping with the help of Survey of India. But that will actually lay down a foundation of where is the floodplain. as you very rightly say, most of it gets enclosed, either for agriculture or in the urban area for construction and all that. And unless we very clearly say this is the floodplain, I mean, whatever is enclosed also should be reviewed, but at least the fresh encroachment should be stopped. Otherwise, we won't be able to really save this the health of the river and the floodplain. So I think in case of at least Ganga Basin, lot of ingredients of river regulation zone, even if we are not calling it by that name, has actually been put in place. And work is also going on ground to put the stones, put all those demarcation, etc. So that work also has happened. We are also getting a lot of valuable support from the orders of Honorable NGT in this respect, which really, like I can tell you, in case of Yamuna in Agra, some cases were referred to us of some real estate coming on the bank of Yamuna within the floodplain, and we gave some report and which was also accepted. So I think this is a very sensitive matter, but actually foundation has been laid, at least in the case of Ganga Basin. And I hope the same thing will get, once you implement in Ganga Basin, it can very easily be translated into other basin also.
Yes, I was about to come to that question, that you are also in charge of the National River Conservation Directorate, which looks at rivers outside the Ganga Basin. So tell us a bit of how work is going beyond the Ganga Basin.
It's a very, again, very interesting area, because once this National River Conservation Directorate also, I mean, in the second term of the government, this also came into Jal Shakti Ministry. So under the guidance of our minister, several meetings have taken place. And then what we are trying to do, the similar framework we are trying to put in case of other rivers. Now, what had happened in case of Ganga, I mean, we started with a lot of scientific analysis with the help of consortium of 7 IITs to make a kind of Ganga River Basin Management Plan. Something like more than 80 reports were prepared by them. So now what we have decided, first, one decision for the other rivers is also the river rejuvenation approach, because NRCP has been basically concentrating upon STP, unlike Namami Gange, where we have multi-directional approach. So that has been decided. The budgetary support is also much less in case of NRCP. So we are actually trying to spend this time for actually replicating some of these models of Ganga rejuvenation by completing the study. We are taking up basin management planning for 5 rivers, 5 major rivers to start with. That is, these rivers were also mentioned in the address of Honorable President to Parliament. So we have picked up Periyar, we have picked up Kaveri, Godavari, Narmada, Mahanadi. So these are some of the rivers which have been actually targeted, where we will try to start working. Of course, polluted stretches, wherever they are, NRCP will keep on working. But another thing which we are trying to do, very interesting things, I told you about the forestry plan for Ganga. So I think 13 more rivers, many of them are outside Ganga Basin, they have been taken up by MOGF. Biodiversity, we actually did a good biodiversity mapping of the entire stretch of Ganga. Not only scientific mapping, we also created a community cadre called Ganga Prahari all along Ganga. So almost in every major village, we have got a community worker, well trained, along with the livelihood related skills given to him. So now, similar kind of profiling from Ganga, we have now shifted to all other rivers in Ganga Basin. And now, beyond Ganga Basin also, we have recently engaged Wildlife Institute of India to extend similar work for these 6 rivers beyond Ganga Basin. I told you, and then one is Barak River in northeast.
Sorry, I heard basically also with WI, you have basically started this project Dolphin, which is a dolphin. The river dolphin is our national aquatic animal. So since you are talking about biodiversity, please tell us a bit about the project Dolphin also.
Yes. See, Gangetic dolphin, as you mentioned, it's our national aquatic animal. But I will admit, not many people, not everyone in the country is aware about it. Like tiger is our national animal and Project Tiger, everyone understands, but many people think dolphins are only in the sea. But the river dolphins are very rare, and actually we are perhaps one of the last country left where we have got so much of river dolphin still present. And especially Gangetic dolphin. They may be in Ganga, they may be in other river also, but the species is called Gangetic dolphin, and that is very important. You will find reference of this Gangetic dolphin right in the old scriptures also. They are very much associated with river. They are also important as a kind of biological indicator of the river health, because that's a kind of keystone species. That's why there is so much of emphasis on dolphin. The story of dolphin conservation also in the modern time actually is the story of Ganga conservation, because When we have Ganga Basin Authority, they were declared as a national aquatic animal. Working with WIA, we gave a project for entire biodiversity mapping, dolphin being one of the key ones. We work with WWF. We have created a kind of 10-year action plan for dolphin conservation. And now, when the last National Ganga Council meeting was chaired by PM, we took this as an agenda and he also agreed. And on 15th August, he actually announced a kind of Project Dolphin. Why Project Dolphin will be important? Because when Project Tiger came over a period of a decade, 2 decades, you see the success. And that is actually reflective of success of biodiversity conservation in the land. Aquatic biodiversity is anyway little neglected. We don't see them so often like elephants or tigers, so they get little neglected from the public this thing. With Project Dolphin, I think they will get a much needed that visibility and much needed focus and a kind of integrated approach. We are doing something, states are doing something, everything will come under one umbrella, and then that will actually help us in this thing. There is also a lot of precedent. When Rhine was being rejuvenated or Thames Valley rejuvenated, their vision of rejuvenation was we will get fish salmon back in the river. That is a kind of indication. So if the dolphins prosper, if the fisheries prosper, that's an indication that we are going in the positive direction and health is improving. So I think that's something which needs to be really looked at, and we are really very hopeful and thankful that it has got the much needed visibility now.
My last question to you, sir, that in this cleaning up process of rivers, just not only Ganga, all the rivers in our country, are we more looking at engineering solutions, which hasn't got us the results like more STPs or concretization of riverbanks than ecological solutions? Because this keeps basically coming into discussions when I discuss the topic with environmental, especially people who are working with rivers for many decades. So the most common complaint is that we are not looking at ecological solutions. We are always we are kind of very dependent on too much on technology and engineering, which is kind of doing more harm than good kind of thing. So would you agree, or kind of you have a different take on this?
No, I think this is what you are saying is the real concern, because what has happened, there is need to improve understanding of river. We have got lot of expertise in hydrology, in ecology, in different branch, but river is not just one branch of knowledge. So actually, often people take river as water, which is absolutely wrong. Because water is just one ingredient of a river. River is flowing, water is most visible thing, so you see water, but it's also a carrier of sediments, silt. I think the Ganga Basin is so fertile is because of the rivers have been carrying silt over thousands of years, and then that agricultural field has come. Aquatic life is there, flora and fauna is there, and river is also having its own cultural identity, spiritual identity. So if you have to look at river in a very holistic way, you have to go beyond engineering solution, because engineering solution will look at water, river as water, and try to organize irrigation projects. I was also in one of my earlier posting, I was principal secretary irrigation in a state, so I can tell you what kind of vision comes there. So the solution will be big barrages, reservoirs, etc. But ultimately, we have to look at river in a holistic way. It's a kind of system of several things which I said. If you look at it as a system, then you will have to look at different solutions. You have to go beyond engineering. I cannot say that engineering is not required. To construct STP, you will require engineering, you will require good technology, you will require good technology to do GIS mapping. But we have to go beyond that. We have to go beyond that, and that's why if you look at agriculture, I just mentioned soil. Now soil has come over so many thousands of years. That's the most precious resource for us. We use pesticide, we use all kinds of chemicals in a very short-term return. Actually, we are also cutting forest, so soil erosion takes place. So I think we have to look at all of them in a much more holistic. Wetland, biodiversity. See, the biodiversity and wetland can do much better service than some of the engineering solutions. So I think it has to be a kind of more holistic way. You have to look at farming, try to go more natural, try to bring in organic. I think our mission is also having a major thrust on organic farming and medicinal farming along river, afforestation of right type, soil conservation, wetland conservation, biodiversity. So if you look at, though you may feel that STPs are still consuming more of the financial resources of the mission, but mission is very much alive about other challenges. And actually, we are very consciously trying to go beyond engineering understanding of the river and try to bring, learn the ecosystem service of the river. I mean, how to really value that. Because we don't value that, so we ultimately land up with a very engineering and technical kind of solution. But if river survives, perhaps much more economic value will come to all of us than just trying to gain something in a short term and try to harm the health of the river. So certainly we have to go beyond engineering solution. And I explained you, lots of solution will come from nature if we start respecting and understanding them.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mishra. It was really pleasure having you on this show. I hope viewers will learn a lot of things, and I wish you the best for the future. And stay safe. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.